Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trace Trolko. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. Adam, I'm back. How are you?
Trace, I hardly knew you were gone, my friend. It wasn't the 7 shows we had to fill in for you and find guest hosts and other sound, but it's good to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you very much. A little bit of work-related travel, personal travel, and of course the trip to Boise, which was a bit of a whirlwind for me. I was only in Idaho about 18 hours because of all of the various travel, but nonetheless, got to see the Knights with a walk-off Colton Boomer field goal at 18-16 win. Just as we said, right? It would be a low-scoring game that would be decided on a Colton Boomer kick. But now we know Colton Boomer can certainly step up in a tight situation at the end of the game and boot one in.
Yeah, obviously we learned a lot about Colton Boomer. I think we all kind of already knew that a little bit, but it's good to see him put that on display. But I think the bigger picture, Trace, is we won a tough game, right? We went on the road. We won a tough game. We certainly didn't play our best. We certainly left a lot of plays in the field. I'm sure we'll talk about drop passes at some point in the next hour. You know, that certainly hurt us. A fourth down that we don't convert, that hurt us. The defense kind of playing a little soft at times. But good teams have to squeak out wins on the road when things aren't going your way. These are games that Gus Malzahn and the team found a way to lose the last couple of seasons. This is really good mojo going into the season, now finding a way to win one in a place that not a lot of people win. And again, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't our best performance ever. But 18-16 is the score. We win that thing, and we move on to the next round.
It may not be the toughest road game, certainly on the schedule, but I think very important to get that first road game of the season. And I really feel, with an opportunity this weekend with Villanova back home, you're looking at a 3-0 start before you begin conference play. I know it's one game difference if you were 2-1, but psychologically, I just think that's different going into conference play. The big kick by Colton Boomer, and let's listen to the call, the Spanish language call. Our Leo Rodriguez, now part of that broadcast team, along with Sergio and Carlos. You may have heard the Mark Daniels call, the FS1 call, but have you enjoyed this one?
Perfecto, Bowman está sobre ella. Está buscando la patada. Sí, 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 sí. Anotación para UCF. Go Knights. Vamos Knights.
They can make paint drying sound good. That was a tremendous call. Colton Boomer, the Lou Groza National Kicker of the Week for his 4 field goal performance. Boy, though, when you see it from that angle, little bit, it does a little of this, makes you a little nervous. I was up in the press box, so I didn't see it like that. I knew it went through, but didn't see it like that. Certainly dramatic. You saw all of the videos people taking in sports bars and in their living rooms watching that one. Just a little bit of nerves for fans in that moment.
Well, I think you even saw Gus, right? Because at the sideline view of Gus, he has his hands in his head initially, and then he takes them down. I think he realizes it went in, but it certainly looked like it was hooking right initially. But again, what a night by Colton Boomer. Game winner, 55-yarder, which ties the record for the longest field goal in UCF history, plus a 50-yarder. I mean, the kid was money. And I said this on the podcast this week. Does anyone have it better than Colton Boomer? He's like the nicest kid in the world, very respectful. He's funny. He's got a good personality. He's got great hair. I mean, this kid has everything going for him. He's got good size for a kicker. It looks like he's in the weight room. This kid has everything going in life. Good for him.
Well, he was good to credit the snap from Gage King and the hold by Mitch McCarthy. The whole new battery of guys is part of this now. So everything has to go right there. But he is certainly an interesting story, an interesting character. And, still just has the one field goal miss, and no one really counts that miss because it was that botch play last year. So he's really been perfect, and he's calm under pressure. So big kick for him. Of course, that's one storyline in this game. The other storyline is we made it all of 2 games into this 2023 season with John Rice Plumlee as starting quarterback, and he goes down with the injury, which head coach Gus Malzahn said a few weeks. You define how you want a few weeks, but it'll be Timmy McLean this Saturday against Villanova. How you feeling about the JRP era in 2023, lasting 2 games with an uncertain return?
Well, let's start with JRP. Obviously, you hope he's healthy. You saw the pictures on social media. He's got a pretty robust looking leg brace on. So hopefully, whatever the injury is, he has a chance to recover from that. He gets healthy. And it's unfortunate because I think he honestly played his best game as a UCF Knight on Saturday. He was, the interceptions obviously weren't necessarily all on him. I think this was his best game. I thought you saw the offense clicking. Again, stalling in the red zone, sure, but you saw the offense clicking. And this was his year, right? This is a year we were all excited about seeing what he could do with a full season under his belt with new coaching. So really, really tough for JRP. And again, my hope is that he gets healthy and that he figures out, what he wants to do with his future with baseball, football, whatever. And Timmy McLean came here to play football, right? He came here he wanted a chance to play. He's going to get that opportunity. We saw him play a season at the Cows. And again, I don't know what to take of that because it wasn't really a good team, but he had some good moments. And we've seen a little bit of him in practice. So I'm full optimism right now. I'm full optimism in Timmy McLean. Don't forget, he hit the portal. And UCF reached out like immediately, right? He was at UCF probably a week after hitting the portal. If Gus and that staff didn't see something in him, they could have easily just passed by and kept it moving and found somebody else. There's something they see in Timmy McLean. There's something that they like about him. We haven't seen enough of him to know. So I'm going to ride the optimist train right now. I'm going to do my Dolly drama, and I'm going to say Timmy's going to be that guy. I have no reason to believe he won't at this point. So I'm all in on Timmy, and I'll wait and see if JRP's health improves. And until then, we back Timmy.
As timing goes, you return home, you face Villanova, so those are some advantages for Timmy McLean. Timmy McLean nearly beat UCF, and head coach Gus Malzahn got to see that earlier in the week. Coach Malzahn said, you know what he said, right, Adam? He's a guy. Let's hear.
He's a guy.
Coach.
Yeah, he's a guy.
Timmy's a guy that we think very highly of. He's had a really good fall camp. In practice on Tuesday and Wednesdays, he's got really equal reps almost to John Rice, so he's ready to go. We have a lot of confidence in him, a guy that has played and started football games, as a true freshman. So really feel good about Timmy taking over.
And he will take over in that first home game Saturday, 6:30 in the Bounce House against Villanova. Gets that game under his belt, Adam, before having to open Big 12 play on the road against a school called Kansas State. So good that he gets one. And again, he is an experienced guy. It's not a true freshman situation. He played a lot of games over in Tampa, had to carry that team on his back in quite a few of those, and had some very strong performances, and now has a greater command of the offense. So encouraging to go with Timmy McLean this weekend. And again, he's going to have a moment here. It's his opportunity to show his leadership and be the leader on this team.
Yeah, I think if you had to draw up a scenario for Timmy that allows this to kind of be a natural transition, this is it, right? Home game against a team that I don't want to overlook Villanova. They're 2-0. They played some good football. They have some good offense. So I don't want to overlook them, but certainly it would appear on paper as though UCF has an advantage from a talent perspective. Gets a chance to get a game at home, friendly crowd, get back into the rhythm of playing before he hits the road for Kansas State. So I think this is a perfect scenario for Timmy McLean. Good opportunity for him to go out, get some confidence too, right? He hasn't played live for a while, so I'm sure in his mind he wants to see himself, complete a couple passes downfield, take that first shot on a blitzer, right? Make that first read. I think he wants to get some of that rhythm in too. So I think this is as good an opportunity as you can have if you have to sort of replace your starting quarterback.
And what's it like to come off the bench and step into that starting role? Let's ask our first guest of the evening. Quarterback DJ Mack, part of the Knights from 2017 to 29. DJ, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
How are you guys? Thank you guys for having me.
Doing well. Let's begin with this, though. How's your family doing?
Everybody's doing great, man. Everybody's doing great. We're, my parents are down here in Orlando, other family as well. So we're all down here in back in Orlando, and kind of, getting back to the UCF way, done with football, those type of things. So, finally getting back is good for us.
Well, you are once a Knight, always a Knight, very well respected by Knight Nation. You know what this is like, having to come in for an injured quarterback. Let's rewind a little bit. You heard Adam say a moment ago, perhaps JRP's best all-round game before that situation late in the game with the injury. What did you make of his performance overall on the road, hostile environment at Boise State?
Right. Well, it's always, hard to play in a hostile environment, especially like, somewhere like Boise. And I felt like you guys just said, I felt like it was his best game as a Knight. He was playing really well, leading up into that game, the past home game. Not only that, just his overall, coming as a quarterback at UCF, getting used to playing, in front of those UCF fans. I felt like it was very great for him.
Well, DJ, we were talking obviously as you joined in about Timmy McLean having to step in, and again, you had a very similar situation. Take us through kind of what is it like? What do you think Timmy McLean's going through right now as he's kind of preparing for this game? He hasn't been on the field for a little bit of time. What do you think he's kind of going through right now and preparing to take the field now, knowing that he's going to start on Saturday?
Right. Well, I feel like the biggest thing for Timmy is just kind of taking in the moment. Like you guys said, he has played for those green cows over down in USF, and this is his first time, being in the UCF jersey. He is from Orlando, so he's a hometown kid. It's his first time playing, back in front of a home stadium, in Orlando for him. That's going to be great for him. And like I said, it's just about taking in the moment. And I already know he's been preparing, for a starting quarterback role, being that backup, that's the role you're supposed to play, being always a play away from being the guy. So I know he's prepared for that. I know he's ready.
Yeah, take us through that for those who don't know. What is practice like when you're the number 2 quarterback? Are you getting equal amount of reps? Are you getting the same, playbook? Are you getting a chance to install some plays or have some plays that kind of fit your style in the game? What's it like when you're the number 2 quarterback, kind of preparing for a game?
Right. Well, it's always, whether you're getting the same amount of reps as a starter or, what I'm saying, you guys are maybe taking 4 reps here, 3 reps here, or 4 reps, 2 reps. You always want to, be back there and analyze every rep like it's yours. That's the biggest thing of being a backup quarterback, just, sitting back, and whether it's your rep or, no matter whose mistake it is, you want to make sure you learn from it and not be the one actually making mistakes, and, kind of watching film, sitting back behind the starter and, seeing what he can do, seeing what you can do, seeing how y'all quarterback styles mesh, and that also helps the coaches, play calls and things like that. So when it is your time to be ready, he kind of already knows what you're capable of and, can kind of, implement that into the office.
Earlier in the week, head coach Gus Malzahn said, we're not going to change our offense. When you hear him say that, and you've been through that situation coming in, what do you make of that statement that he has? And how many game plan changes might you expect? I know he says he's not going to change things, but he still has a new signal caller back there.
Right. Well, always with the new signal caller, you want to make him as comfortable as possible. So I think that's something, whether that's, some quick completions here or, getting him involved in other things to make him feel comfortable with the game. Like you guys said, this is his first time in a little while with some live reps. That's the biggest thing. But with, coach saying that he's not going to change much, that means he's very confident in the guy that, he feels is next.
Obviously, getting the win, performing well Saturday against a 2-0 Villanova squad, but they likely come in, right, a bit overmatched in comparison to UCF in the Big 12. How much of what happened Saturday is also looking ahead to that first Big 12 road game at Kansas State? They have to give Timmy meaningful reps and throws and opportunities here because he's going to be in a much more hostile environment in a week.
Right. Well, I feel like those reps and, just the overall team practicing, with the ones is something that's going to develop that confidence for him. And this, game Saturday is no different. Like they're going to go out there, just try to establish what they want to do. That way they can have that, confidence going into the next couple games.
DJ, I know this feels like a silly question, but for the guys around Timmy McLean, receivers specifically, is it an adjustment that he's left-handed, obviously, and JRP's right-handed? Is that an adjustment? Is that something that you think has to kind of be worked on? I know the ball spins a little differently of a left-hander. Do you think, is there any concern there? Is there anything that needs to be done, do you think, to get the receivers kind of used to Timmy's ball versus JRP?
Well, I know those guys are always, working out, on their own time or, rather just in practice. So I'm pretty sure they're kind of used to, the way the ball tails off, like you said, being a left-hand quarterback, whether it's on a deep ball or, a short pass, bullet pass. The way the ball tails off is, like you said, is completely right. So, but I feel like, the way that those guys work, I know they work after practice. I know, they're always together. So I feel like that's something that they're definitely accustomed to by now.
Well, I know we're talking a lot about quarterback, but Timmy's not going to win this game alone. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of weapons around him. Who would you want to see sort of step up and kind of take the lead right now as kind of Timmy gets his feet wet and gets used to it? Is there another guy or two on offense that you think really kind of has an opportunity to step up right now and sort of help be that leader as Timmy transitions in?
Right. Well, I feel like, the best, sort of blanket for a quarterback that's starting, for the first time, or maybe, becoming from that backup role, is a great run game. So I feel like as long as the run game is, working well, I feel like they'll always be able to implement, just certain passes to get the quarterback comfortable and then be able to, take those shots when it's time. So I think as long as their run game is good, they'll be fine.
Going into the season, we'd heard from head coach Malzahn and offensive coordinator Darren Hinshaw and others that there was a night and day difference in John Rice Plumlee. Sample size of 2 games, big win at home against Kent State, in which he had a couple of interceptions on the road at Boise State, not really his fault. What sort of progress had you seen from JRP season to season?
Well, first of all, just having the year in the system and around, a new group of guys is something that's going to develop your confidence. So I feel like after the year, he got a chance to kind of sit in and develop his craft. And that's always, off season with your guys is something that's always going to develop your confidence. And, when they see your teammates see you working, or your receivers see you working, that's something that's going to make everybody better. So I feel like, he's also grown as a leader, and not only that, he's helped make, everyone around him better. So I definitely feel like that's the biggest thing that I've seen. What
do you like about this offense this season?
I definitely like the high poweredness of the, offense, whether they're able to get in that wildcat and, make a big play out of that, or, just, throwing it deep, or rather getting Jeezy. That's what I like to call him, Jeezy the ball. He's great. I feel like they have a lot of they're very dynamic in the way that they, provide, different looks to different defenses, and overall, just I like the way they, making plays this year for sure. That's definitely what I like to see.
DJ, we got a lot of questions. You get a lot of fans in the chat. A couple of questions for you here. I'll put one on screen. This is from our friend Dolly. He wants to know, down 24-7 in Q1 of the 2018 championship game, what did you tell yourself to maintain your composure?
Man, I just biggest thing I had, I had teammates that, that helped me out. I didn't really have to, sit in my own sorrow, or I didn't have to, reap or weep for so long. I had guys always around me that's just, rather just tapping me on the shoulder, telling me it's going to be okay, or, sitting around me joking. I always kept my spirits high. And, once I kept my spirits high and seeing that, we all felt like it was possible. Once I seen everybody still had confidence in me, I knew I was going to be okay.
I don't know if you know Timmy McLean or not, if you guys are connected at all, but if he called you right now and said, hey, DJ, give me some advice. I'm going to this game. You had a similar situation. What advice would you give Timmy if he called you right now?
Yeah, well, like I said, Timmy was a, hometown kid here in Orlando. So when we first got to Orlando, around Gabe, Brandon Moore, those guys, they're Seminole guys. So, whether we had a bye week or we had, some time off on Fridays, we got a chance to see Timmy play a lot. And, just camps and things like that, I seen him work, and I admired his ethic, work ethic and things like that. But if he called me, I would just tell him to just, like I said, soak in the moment. You don't get those opportunities, a lot of times. And when you do, you want to make sure you just go in and, show everybody, show the coaches, show your teammates that you're willing, and you put in the work to, when you had the opportunity to take the most of it.
Well, if you've seen him play, give us a scouting report on Timmy McLean. What does he do well? What have you seen in your time, either in practice watching him or kind of having him, sort of around the guys, in the off season?
Right. When he was a lot younger, what I'm saying, we used to call Timmy Lil Lamar when he was over at Timmy. He always, like had that just instinct and ability that you can see in a young quarterback that, a lot of guys may not have, or you may not see it as early as we seen it in him. He extends the plays well, like you would want in any other, mobile quarterback or guy that can, make your offense better in different ways other than just throwing the ball. Like I said, he takes those shots when he needs to. And I went to a camp practice, earlier in the year, and I definitely felt like I seen the same things in him. He's just working to get better, whether that's just asking coaches certain things off to the side, or just him off practicing to the side, certain footwork things or certain things that he may see in the play to get his body in the right way. He's definitely been working.
What does it say about him? He's faced adversity, right? He faced it over in Tampa. He had to carry a team that was not a lot of talent there, and they struggled, but he didn't give up on his dream, has opportunity now at UCF. So he's faced and worked through some adversity. What does that say to you?
Right. Well, I can't imagine, how bad it is to play down there, but I know for sure with hardships, you have to really sit in with yourself and kind of, determine what you want for yourself. So I know that the fact that he's got through that part and he's still out here excelling, working hard, to become not only the football player he wants to be, the man he wants to be, is, great for him. And I only can, expect and, wish great things on him.
Of course, it's next man up. So Timmy has this opportunity. Dylan Risk now in a bit of a different position than he was last week. If you're him, how do you get yourself ready and prepared? Because you might find yourself in action. And if UCF gets out to a big lead, they might want to give him some opportunities to work with the offense in this game.
All right. Well, like you said, with that big lead, that's definitely an opportunity to get a young guy involved with some live reps. But, the same thing, just really sitting, behind, whether it's your rep or whether it's Timmy's rep, or, whether you guys are watching just old film or game film, he wants to just really go in and visualize every rep and try to see every way that he can get better from everything that he's done. So just going in every single day, trying to get better on something new is something that's going to, help him excel very quickly, with him being a young guy. And then those game reps are only going to, help him that much more.
All right, DJ, help me out with this one. I think we all understand Villanova is probably, not as good of a team as UCF. And if I know that, and I'm not very smart at all, I assume that the players in UCF know that as well. How do you sort of keep yourself from, maybe not having as good a performance or kind of having a letdown game? What do you kind of do as a team? What do you do as a leader, as a quarterback, to go, hey, I know we're better than these guys, but, they're on scholarship too. How do you keep everybody kind of focused when you probably have a team on the other side of the ball that you're probably better than?
Right. Well, my thing is, a great team with, good mature leaders, or a good, leadership group is always going to keep everybody in line, more so of, creating their own energy, or, playing to the level that they know they can play of, instead of stooping down to the level like you guys say that you might be playing. The biggest thing for us was, back in our day, was just, we want to go out there and put everything that we put on film. We wanted to represent who we are. You know what I'm saying? We didn't want it to the eye in the lie. I mean, the eye in the sky does not lie. So our biggest thing was everything that we put on film, we wanted to represent exactly who we were, who we wanted to be. And that was, regardless of who we played. So.
All right, since you got that beautiful looking jersey behind you, I got to ask you a jersey question. What do you think of UCF's new uniform set? Obviously, when you were there was a ton of combos. We had anthracite, we had pewter, we had a bunch of different stuff. Now a little bit more streamlined, the black, the white, the gold. What do you make of UCF's sort of new uniform set compared to what you had when you were there?
Well, I felt like we've always been, sort of advanced in the, uniform region. And I feel like that's only, bumping up for us. I definitely love the all white and gold. I love the all black and gold as well. I definitely feel like, that pewter and the anthracite definitely, added some flavor to things. But I definitely like the fact that they're, either staying, all black or all white. And they always can add certain things to those, and, always can make them, sort of always have some type of alternate. So.
I'm with you, DJ. I was pro pewter. I was pro anthracite. I know there's a lot of people like the black and gold. I was pro those unique colors we could toss in for combo. How much does that stuff matter to you guys as players?
I think, always you want to look good, being on TV and different things like that. So it was always, we always wanted to look good, knowing that we were going to be out there playing hard, and, on TV and things like that. But we always felt like, equipment and everybody was going to take care of us no matter what. So we knew they weren't going to, have us going out there looking any kind of way or, anything like that. So.
Question from John wants to know, who's Timmy's Marlon Williams when he faces a rough patch?
That really just, you can't, you got to ask him that, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to really know until he gets in that position. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, with me, I didn't really know who that person was going to be for me until we kind of got into that halftime locker room at Memphis. And, Marlon just came, sat next to me. We talked for a little minute, me and Otis, same type of thing. So he's not going to really know it until he gets in that moment. But I'm pretty sure, developing those relationships in that locker room with those guys, he knows who that person is going to be.
Of course, every guy's going to approach this differently, feel different things. Did you have nerves?
Not necessarily nerves, because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, we grew up playing this game. We grew up loving this game. So my whole thing was just, like I said, taking an opportunity and, being in that moment and, taking everything that I got from that moment. But when I look back at it, I think, probably walking out there for that first time, hearing everybody scream my name, hearing playing Return to Mac definitely, put some type of nerves in my system. But I feel like, once, like I said, once I seen the confidence that everybody had in me, when I looked into their eyes, I was all good.
You'll know it's going well on Saturday from Timmy if you see what?
Just him having fun. Whether it's going good for him or, whether it's not so good for him, he just needs to have fun. And that's going to be the biggest thing for him, because when he's having fun, everybody's around him is going to ease up, because, it might be a tough moment for the team, having a quarterback go down that, everybody thought was going to be the guy. So they see him still having fun, through that, like you said, the adversity he's going through that team adversity. Once everybody see him having fun, everybody's going to lighten up. And that's just going to, it's going to permeate through the whole team, and it's going to make everybody better.
DJ, I know everybody who followed you obviously always knew your mom and dad. And Scott's asking this question. You're saying he misses your dad. Are you and your parents still going to the games, or is there a chance you'll be at the game on Saturday night?
I'm trying to get to the game Saturday night, but I definitely bring my mom and dad to a couple of games. They definitely miss cheering for UCF, so I'm definitely gonna get them out to it. I think I'm definitely gonna come to the game when they play Baylor, Big 12 home opener. I'm definitely gonna be there. We'll see if Papa Mac and Mama Mac.
DJ, thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. You're a fan favorite to this day. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I always appreciate you guys, man. Thank you.
Thanks, DJ.
Thank you. Adam, DJ is one of those guys that should never have to buy a beer in this town.
He shouldn't. No.
Pick up the tab. I mean, his stay was not very long, but he came in some very important moments and performed and excelled, and will always be remembered fondly by Night Nation.
Listen, we do a lot of interviews. I don't know if I've ever seen so many comments that I'm seeing tonight from people in the chat just talking about how good it is to see him, how much they love seeing him. Some people met him at Burger U recently and how much they love their experience. People asking about his parents, right? That just shows the kind of impact that DJ had when he was here. And that's what makes Night Nation special. And that's what makes Timmy McLean special, right? Because Timmy has the opportunity to just the same thing, right? He has the opportunity to come in and play really well and win this fan base over and be kind of cement his legacy, just like DJ did. So that's where opportunities like this, as much as it really sucked for JRP, somebody else now gets that chance, right? And because of that, a DJ Mack was born to us all, and we get to see how special he was. And I hope we get the same thing from Timmy McLean, right? I hope we get the same opportunity. And again, it sucks. It has to come at the expense of an injury, but this is why something like this is exciting, because now you get to see, is there somebody else who's going to step in and become one of those all-time, great players at UCF like DJ was.
That Timmy McLean era, for however long it lasts, begins Saturday at 6:30 in the Bounce House. Some news this Thursday: 2023 Hall of Fame class announced includes posthumously former head coach Gene McDowell, University President Dr. John Hitt, Shelby Tournier from softball, Kyle Bono from baseball, Delana Sarden from volleyball, the 2027 UCF cheer team, and broadcaster Mark Daniels. So big class. And finally, I know for some folks that were rooting Gene McDowell finally in that class.
Yeah, certainly name of who's who, right, from a UCF perspective. And I know the Gene McDowell era obviously has some things, right, and I think there's obviously some nuance to that story, but it's definitely good to see somebody who we've had numerous people on the show tell us that UCF program doesn't exist today if it wasn't for what Gene McDowell did and the way he literally single-handedly kept the program afloat, through those lean years and into the 80s, into the 90s. So it's good to see him, Dr. Hitt on there as well. And the 2007 cheer team, Trace. Don't forget them, national champs.
Yes, and they were surprised. They thought they were hopping on a Zoom with head coach Linda Gooch, and then they were told that they were going into the Hall of Fame. So good video put out by UCF this Thursday. Let's go around the Big 12 with our newest member of the Suns team, Jeff Allen.
Our spotlight game of the week features an old AAC foe, Tulsa, playing host to number 19, Oklahoma. It'll be former UCF quarterback Dylan Gabriel's first return there since the Knights' November 2019 loss to the Golden Hurricane, 34-31. Gabriel and UCF would also lose to Tulsa the following year when the Knights blew a 16-2 first quarter lead and dropped a 34-26 decision. Will the former Knights sock peddler be able to conquer his Tulsa Demons this time around? Find out Saturday, 3:30 on ESPN2. The rest of the Big 12 schedule, with all games on Saturday, has number 15 Kansas State at Missouri, 12 noon on the SEC Network. Baylor hosts Long Island University, a noon kick on ESPN+. Iowa State travels to Ohio to face the Bobcats, 12 noon on ESPNU. Cincinnati welcomes Miami of Ohio, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Oklahoma State hosts South Alabama, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Texas Tech has a home date with Tarleton State, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. BYU is in Arkansas, 7:30 on ESPN2. West Virginia and Pittsburgh get together for their annual backyard brawl in Morgantown, 7:30 on ABC. Number 4, Texas hosts Wyoming, 8 o'clock on the Longhorn Network. In the only conference game, TCU is at Houston, 8 o'clock on Fox, and Kansas wraps up the weekend schedule at Nevada, 10:30 on CBS Sports Network. UCF wraps up their non-conference schedule against Villanova at 6:30 on FS1. This won't be a nail-biter like last week, and even with QB2 Timmy McLean taking over at quarterback, the Knights drop a 50-burger on their way to a 55-10 win. With the Big 12 reports, I'm Jeff Allen.
He referred to him as the sock peddler.
He did.
Did I hear that right?
No, you heard it right. Here's my problem with Jeff Allen. Every time I hear him speak, I feel inadequate as a broadcaster. He's got such a good voice. He's really good. I feel inadequate.
He's not bad on his prognostications either. He
got that wrong by like 20 points. But yes, I'll give him a late.
He called for a late Colton Boomer.
Okay, everyone can do that.
Yeah. Opportunity again. Will it be for the home game this weekend? Bolay.
Yes.
Some sort of contest that'll happen.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Tris. Yes, we're going to do another contest this week with Bolay. Again, I'll put that up on Saturday morning. So guess who scores first for UCF and the method of scoring, including the yardage. And this time you're going to be entered to win a free Bolay gift card. So you'll get a gift card to go visit their fine establishment. Last week's winner has been notified. He won a tailgate catering for up to 10. And so I know that's in the works as well. That's a really nice opportunity. Big thanks to our friend Danny at Bolay for setting this up. So again, Saturday, I'll put the tweet out. You just tell me who's gonna score for the Knights first, yardage and method, and you could win a free Bolay gift card.
Very good. Thanks to Bolay for that. Let's talk a little bit more about where the Knights are after 2 games with a beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel. He is Matt Murschel, and he joins us now on Sons of UCF Live. Hello, Matt.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. I want to start with a couple process questions because I sat next to you in the press box in Boise. You got a nail biter there, which is great for fans, a little stressful, but for a media guy with a deadline, this can go either way, right? He can make this kick, he can miss this kick. You still got to file something, get down to post game. What's the stress on you? What's going through your mind as you're putting together 2 different stories there?
Yeah, it's usually like, when I'm watching what's going on and I've got, like you said, 2 stories going on. I have one where in case, UCF would have lost that game. I've got one where if they're going to win the game, it's really kind of about just tweaking the lead and how the game was decided, whether it was, Boise State coming down and scoring late or whether it was going to be, the 40-yard kick by Colton Boomer. So, the stress level is pretty high because they like to have something filed within a couple minutes of the game being over with. Then I have to run downstairs, as you and I both did, try to fight our way down the elevator and get to the field and run across the field to get to the post game and try to get some quotes and things like that. And then afterwards, it's me rushing back up to the press box and trying to, write out some sort of story for our e-edition and then for the online version. So it can be stressful. Believe me, I love a good college football battle. I love a good close game. But I also love a 56-6 blowout where I can have my story pretty much written, by the end of the 3rd quarter. So it really does kind of get your blood pumping, and it really just gets you really going when it comes to those kind of nail biters.
Well, and the backdrop Saturday as well is not only do you have this last-second field goal by Colton Boomer, but we know quarterback John Rice Plumlee has gone down to injury. Some folks are snapping photos. Of course, you're expected to know everything. The question gets asked if Gus Malzahn, and they may not even know at that moment what's going on, but everybody expects you as the beat writer to have that answer. It's not that easy. You can't just run with a photo that somebody snapped by the buses.
Yeah, and that's what happened. We got a lot of people on social media who were sharing photos, and a couple of people sent, some photos to people and saying, this is what I saw after the game, and this is what we saw him getting on the bus. And so there was a little bit of a challenge there. You want to make sure that you get everything accurately, everything is accurate. We didn't really know that extent when we talked to Gus Malzahn after the game. So it wasn't like we could ask him, okay, is he hurt? What's going on? What's the deal? We did ask, at some point, he took a hard hit, and he kind of addressed that a little bit, but he kind of stayed away from injuries. So it makes things a little bit more challenging. And I understand fans, they've got their own opinions. They throw things out there on social media, but I have to stay kind of down the middle. I can't just report anything. We have to wait and see what happens, because sometimes you can make the mistake of going with something and, it wouldn't be true. I know there's some speculation it could have been an ACL injury. We're not really sure if that's the case. And obviously Gus saying on Monday that it didn't require surgery. It was a knee injury, but didn't require surgery. So that's a good sign if it was an ACL type thing. So, that really kind of adds an extra level to things. And then you get back to the press box and you're writing and stuff in post game, and you see some other stuff and you think, okay, well, I could have asked that question better. But again, when you're dealing with the time frame and what we know, it's a little bit difficult.
Matt, there are a lot of doctors in Night Nation, and they're on social media after games. So I don't know how many sources you need. You just go with Night Fan 97, who saw the photo and knows the extent of things.
And think about how many quarterbacks have gone through injuries at UCF over the last 5 or 6 years. You've got a lot of guys who've had different things. So, but I always like to make sure I get it right from this team if I could possibly get it, because, again, you don't want to report something that's just untrue.
Well, Matt, I'm sure we'll look ahead a little bit in a second, but I'm going to look back for just one moment. What did you learn about the Knights on Saturday with the 18-16 win? What did you learn from watching that game and seeing them pull that out?
Well, I mean, they talked about this all off season and into fall camp, is that their focus was close games. Gus Malzahn thought going to the Big 12 that they were going to be in a lot of close games, and he really stressed to this team, we got to run the 4-minute drill, the 2-minute drill. We got to understand what it's going to take to be in those games and make sure we win those things. And that demonstrated that perfectly in that game. I mean, because here, Boise State marches down the field, they score with about 1:43 left. You're thinking, okay, well, that's going to be it. And then there's UCF steps on the field and without any sort of hesitation, just marches down the field themselves, sets everything up, and then, gets the field goal to win the game. So that's exactly what they had been talking about for months. And I think it just demonstrates that they thought that, that plan worked really well for them. And again, they'll probably go through that maybe several more times when they get to the Big 12 schedule. So I think that was a good way to respond, especially when you look at their offense. The first half wasn't pretty at all. Obviously the 2 interceptions by John Rice Plumlee, which were bobbles by the receiver. You look at the fact they didn't really run the football very well in the first half. I thought the offensive line got a little bit dominated. Second half, they made adjustments, and the offensive line stepped up, had big holes. We saw R.J. Harvey make some big plays. Receivers were actually making the catches. And then, I think that kind of opened the door for them to kind of, set up what they were for the win. So, and to me, the other big piece was the defense. Defense has been outstanding. 22 points over the first 2 games. There's only 16 teams that have more than that, or have less than that, I'm sorry. And 3 of those teams are Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. So this is a solid defensive effort right now, and they're probably going to need that when they move forward into the Big 12 schedule.
Who's a player that stood out to you on both sides of the ball? Is there somebody who you've seen the first 2 games and really has kind of stood out to you, or you've really kind of taken notice of how maybe he's improved, or how much, that player is really making a difference on the field?
Well, to me, I think it's Xavier Townsend on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's a different player than I think last year. He's been able to, they used him in the slot really well. They've used him, I know, running the football, kind of end arounds. He's got lots of speed. He's been able to make some plays there and kind of becomes an X factor. I know he did a little bit of that early on in that game. They kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. But he's been a guy I think they could really use as an understated weapon in that offensive system. And I think on the defensive side, Lee Hunter has been a guy that we've talked about many times in the first 2 games, who's had a really good, strong, showing in the middle, especially surrounded by those experienced guys, Josh Salazar, Tremont Morris-Brash, and Ricky Barber. So those guys are really the ones who are stepping up. And I think that's just what you want to see, is some of those guys who maybe weren't necessarily going to be on your A list, but you want to see them kind of be able to step up and be able to play at that elite level. If not for the crazy interceptions, this is John Rice Plumlee's best game. What have you made of the Darren Hinshaw offense through 2 games? Well, I think there's keys of it. I mean, you can see the versatility, that they're trying to do. They want to mix things up a little bit. I still don't think they've thrown the ball nearly as deep as they wanted to, as many times as deep as they wanted to. I still think he'd like to do that more often. I mean, they took a couple shots early in the Boise State game, and we thought, okay, this is kind of what he was going to do. But they kind of got away from that a little bit, and I think they need to do more of that. I also think that the running game has done really well. Obviously, they've been able to excel on that. I still question a little bit their third and fourth and short type situations. I think, we talked about that after the game, with Gus. The Wildcat situation never just worked really well for me. I don't think it's necessarily a good move. I mean, you take out your best runner, and John Rice Plumlee, and you put in a guy, nothing against Jordan McDonald, but I mean, again, you just bring in a guy like that. If you're going to do that, I think you need to mix it up a little bit. So I think those are the only question marks I really have with the offense. And I think, again, how they were using John Rice Plumlee running the football. I think there were opportunities for him to run the ball, and he was able to get some good yardage. But I think there's also times when he needed to stay in the pocket and throw the ball away. I think he was learning through that period. Now, what I'm interested in is, how does Timmy McLean kind of fit in that role now? I mean, and how are they going to maybe utilize his skill set a little differently than John Rice Plumlee? I think McLean's a little bit more of a wild runner. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how much they try to keep him kind of contained, or whether they want to let him go out and kind of, use the open field and take off and run.
Well, now it is Timmy time, right? And we saw some late moments against Kent State. The media access is very limited, so we didn't see much of anything except some handoffs during the practices and preseason camp, and sat out last year. So you got to go back to his days in Tampa, where he was certainly a dynamic player, but not surrounded by a lot of talent. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they integrate him into this offense against a Villanova team here on Saturday.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the difference too is, let's not forget that the year that Timmy had at USF, they had a really bad offensive line. He was sacked 22 times. I mean, he had to scramble pretty much for his life every time. And then there were opportunities where he was able to take advantage of those big gaps and take off running the football. So, and Darren Henshaw has told us that, they want him to be a complete quarterback. And he's actually gotten to that point. When they first got there, they felt like he was a little wild. He would just kind of take off whenever things broke down, instead of maybe going through his progressions, finding the open man, going to the safety valve, kind of running the play as it speaks. Now they feel like he's fit that role. So I think this is a perfect example of a great week to really get a chance to get him out there against a Villanova team where, they're going to try some things, but I think that UCF is going to let Timmy go out there and be him a little bit and see what he can do, because they understand, listen, next week they're going on the road to Kansas State. It's going to be a high power game against a top 15 team on national television. They don't want to it's a good thing you didn't have to throw him out there that week. At least he gets an opportunity to kind of see how things work. And also there might be an opportunity for Dylan Risk to get out there a little bit as well. And I think that's going to give them a little more confidence as they move forward, especially considering the fact we're not sure how long John Rice Plumlee is going to be gone. I know Gus said a few weeks, but a few weeks could be 2 or 3, or it could be 5 or 6. So it's going to depend on really kind of how he heals.
I'm sure they don't want to give Kansas State too much to look at with Timmy, but they still need Timmy to throw the ball and get into the offense, because he's going to be playing the following week at Kansas State. So they need him to do some things as well.
Yeah, very much so. I think they want to get him in the passing game, get him started early. Whether it's going to be screens, whether it's going to be going deep. I wouldn't be shocked if Darren takes some shots deep early on against Villanova, just to kind of open things up. And give him some confidence, give Timmy some confidence. If he hits a big 40, 50, 60-yard pass, I mean, that would just build the confidence of him, and then you can go from there. And but I also think they want to run the football. They don't want to get away from what they really do well. They're going to run the football as much as they can. And I think they're going to use Timmy in that formation as well. I think they're going to maybe have him scramble out of the pocket a little bit, try to create some plays as well. I think he's a little more of a mobile quarterback than John Rice is. So maybe he can he's a little faster too as well. So I think he's going to be able to make some plays. So I think they want to kind of, you're right, they don't want to show their entire hand, but I think they want to be able to get him comfortable, get him feeling like maybe he's got 30, 40, 50 snaps under his belt, and then go from there. If they build up a big lead early on, I think you'll see the offense go very vanilla, and I think you'll see Dylan Risk come in and get the remainder of the snaps.
Matt, you mentioned the turnstiles that were the Cal's offensive line. Offensive line for UCF obviously was a question mark coming into the season. A lot of moving parts, a lot of new faces, a lot of new pieces. How do you think the offensive line has played through the first 2 games?
I think they've done a really great job. I mean, you think about it. I mean, they really haven't given up a lot of sacks. You look at the fact that they have the number 1 rushing offense in the country through the first 2 weeks. That's been outstanding. Like I said, in the second half against Boise State, they really kind of took over. They helped R.J. Harvey really kind of take on a larger role, and that was able to open up the offense a little bit as much as well too. So, when you've got a quarterback like a John Rice Plumlee or even a Timmy McLean, a guy who can maybe take off running a little bit here or there, it's hard for an offensive lineman, because you've got your back to the guy. You're not sure what's going on, and all of a sudden you see your quarterback take off and run past you. You got to make sure you're not causing having problems with maybe holding penalties or false starts. And that's another thing that they've done relatively well, is they haven't been highly penalized. I think that's something that they've done really well. I think some of that's just the experience factor. I mean, you think about the fact that they brought in all these experienced transfers to help them out. So the offensive line, in my opinion, has really been a pleasant surprise. I mean, and if they can, longer they can keep protecting the quarterback, I think that's going to be a big key of what this offense can continue to do, especially as they move into the Big 12.
I know we talked about it right before you hopped in, Matt, so I'd love to get your comments on UCF announces their Hall of Fame class. What are your thoughts when you saw the list and the folks who are going to get inducted in 2023?
Well, I mean, it starts with Gene McDowell. I mean, listen, as anyone, I mean, he's the father of UCF football. I mean, he was there and he did everything. He was not only coach, but he became AD at one point. He really got this program from its very infancy, moved it all the way through up to the Division I level. And that's not easy to do. And you think about the time frame of that as well. I mean, that was a huge deal, to get to where they're at now. There have been some programs that have been around for over 100 years. It's taken them forever to get to this elite level. And you're seeing UCF kind of do that in a lot quicker pace. A lot of that can be credited to Gene. And I think John Hitt, let's not overshadow what John Hitt has done. He was there for a long time, and he had a very big hand in the athletic department. I know he pushed to get the stadium built. And you talk about the Big 12. I mean, he was there when the first time that UCF put together a bid to try to get into the Big 12. I mean, he wanted to get in there as best they can, and obviously they get in there as well. And then everyone else, I mean, again, when you're looking at Hall of Fames, I mean, there's some great players listed on this list. Not to take anything away from the cheer team or Mark Daniels, who again are big parts of what UCF athletics has been.
We'll wrap up with this. Was the travel to Boise a preview of coming attractions for UCF in the Big 12 for you?
It was a little bit, I mean, it was the longest trip they're going to take, obviously. So I think the remainder of the trips are going to be hopefully a little bit easier. I think they learned something from that trip to Boise State. They wanted to, they got off late, I think, and, they had troubles with travels. And I think they weren't able to do the walkthrough on Friday evening, which I think kind of, knowing Gus, probably got him a little bit agitated, because he has a set, rigid way of doing things. So I think he would love to do that. So I think the next trip in Kansas State, believe me, they're going to try to make sure they get there early enough to get things done. I think I talked to a lot of fans who were saying, listen, we can only go to 2 or 3 games. So we want to go to these premier games. So they went to Boise State and they talked about Kansas State with the Big 12 opener. They talked about Oklahoma being a special place. So I think it's interesting to see where some of these fans are going to go to and arrive at. And if they come out like they did at Boise State, I mean, it's going to be incredible. I think there's going to be a lot of schools that are going to be really impressed with, the UCF fan base showing up for a lot of these games.
Now, when you change planes, was it a brisk walk? Was it running? Were you sprinting between flights?
Not the first time there. We had some travel delays getting to, I think, our flight from Orlando to Phoenix, but we had to run across.
How crazy does that sound?
Yes, I know. We had to run. We had to run across there. But then, I think getting back on my trip back was a much of bigger adventure. I had to go to Vegas, and I went from Vegas to Dallas, and then from Dallas to Orlando, and I think that was about an 8-hour time in the plane, and then turn around and have to go out to UCF, because we were wondering what happened to John Rice Plumlee. So it was probably the longest trip I probably have taken, in terms of length. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the Kansas State trip is nowhere near as long as that. I think it's a direct flight to Kansas City.
Well, first things, a little bit shorter trip to the Bounce House this Saturday. Yeah. Matt, I'll see you out at the stadium. Matt Murschel, beat writer for the UCF Knights at the Orlando Sentinel. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Matt.
Adventures in travel in the Big 12. Let's go around. Let's take a look at some news and notes.
Corey Thornton, let's go around the kingdom.
Corey Thornton with an INT Saturday at Boise State. First ever game in the Big 12. First ever win for a UCF program in the Big 12. Women's soccer wins 4-2 over West Virginia at the UCF Soccer Complex tonight. Knights surrendered the first goal in the 10th minute. Then they got goals from Diana Martin, Ellie Moreno, Chloe Netzel. Knights win that one. So congratulations to them. First ever Big 12 win. Set the tone. Up next Thursday, conference play continues at Houston at 8 o'clock. A little delayed start. UCF volleyball 8-1 in the Boilermaker Challenge. They're facing Purdue right now on the Big Ten Network. They also will have Illinois as part of this on Friday. And a big one, West Virginia again, 4th ranked men's soccer, West Virginia Mountaineers against 5th ranked UCF 4-0-1, 7 o'clock start, huge matchup, 4 versus 5. And of course, this is a de facto Big 12 game. Both of these teams in the Sun Belt, the only 2 members of the Big 12 in the Sun Belt. UCF Mike felt comfortable in that second seat there next to Eric Lopez as part of Around the Kingdom. By the way, I came back because I felt a little pressure. Eric Lopez has come in, and UCF Mike's part of Around the Kingdom. Brian W. Peterson, geez, gone for a week. They're out there.
Well, if it helps, it took 2 people to replace you, Trace. If that really helps you, we needed multiple partners to get involved. But you mentioned him. UCF Mike filled in this week. He did an admirable job. Him and Elo had a little back and forth. And here's a little taste of what Around the Kingdom might sound like with UCF Mike.
I don't know if UCF can win shootouts in the Big 12 with Timmy McLean. I mean, that was a question with JRP. Now you got Timmy McLean. So can this defense carry them? I still have questions about the linebacker in the secondary.
Right. And you mentioned the competition stepping up. Even this week, Villanova has averaged over 40 points a game. I know not playing against the best teams, but there are no slouch coming in. The defense has to be on their game this week, too.
No slouch.
UCF Mike, proper gold there on black for the hat, the shirt. They're looking sharp.
Yes, I don't dress him, so I can't really help you there.
By the way, he spends about 7-8 hours a week working on that pull tracker. He's like 2 games ahead of me. I'm not impressed. I just go through, click, 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 click. I'm 2 games behind a guy studying 8 hours a week.
All of you are killing me. So yeah, no room to talk.
It was good to see Brian W. Peterson, part of Sons of UCF Live last week. And of course, this is time for his segment.
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
I was challenged. I was challenged by Eric Lopez.
Yeah,
he won't wear sunglasses. I'm not wearing them for the entire segment, but I will wear them for the first question. Any walk and talk questions this week, Adam?
I hope not. I don't think so. I was traveling this week, had a lot of emails. So if I missed any of you, I apologize, but I think we're good this week.
We'll have you next week. At Troy OTC. Troy thinks, by the way, that he's part of Suns Plus or something. He DMs me the questions. Doesn't put him on the big board. Just direct messages me. But we'll leave it. It's Gus's ability to evaluate quarterbacks a concern given the massive success Mikey Keene has had and JRP's turnovers. All this is too soon. All this is too soon for me after 2 weeks.
I mean, look, I wouldn't say that that's a problem just based off the Mikey Keene stuff. If there is any knock on Gus Malzahn, if you take Cam Newton off the board, who's the quarterback that he's really sort of developed? I'll wait.
At Mets fan 8174, do you think the turf contributed to JRP's leg getting caught like that and could have also contributed to the return of falling Richardson?
That one, yeah. Stop it. The streak ended at 1. I think it's more the guy blasting him in the head that had the do with the injury. We saw Aaron Rodgers on Monday, his Jets tenure after 4 plays. There's certainly an uprising against the artificial turf. It probably didn't help, if I'm being honest. But again, I think getting blasted in the head probably had just as much to do with that.
I know you were pretty animated in your post-game comments in your column on sonsofUCF.com. If you've seen that play again, if you rethought this, you still think it's targeting, or do you think it was the right call? I still think
it's he launched himself forcibly and made contact with the head or neck area. I don't know what else I'm missing. I know he didn't slide. He did slide. He's not. So if I'm just standing there and someone just blasts me in the head because I'm not sliding, that doesn't count. Like he literally hit JRP directly in the head, launched himself to do that. He may have started with the shoulder, but he went to the head at that point. And my thing is really this: if that's not targeting, that's fine. But everyone played this clip back for me when, Nakai Martinez gets thrown out of a game in the first quarter because there's a close targeting call and it's going to be questionable. So everyone play this clip back when we go, well, that's targeting, but JRP get hit in the head and that wasn't. So I just want consistency. It looked clearly like to me like he was, he got hit in the head, but what are you going to do?
At Grill 24Q, what do we know about Timmy? Let me ask it a little bit differently. What do you feel comfortable about Timmy? I felt, as I mentioned earlier, this guy's faced adversity over in Tampa. This is his moment now. And we're going to see, remember Gus's slogan last year, seize the moment. This is Timmy's moment. And I'm looking forward to seeing him seize that moment.
What I like most about him, Trace, obviously, is we saw him play us in the bounce house 2 years ago, and Matt Murschel just said it. I mean, he was running for his life at times, and what I've heard a lot of people say is the kid just knows how to make plays. He just knows how to make plays. He can make a play on the field. And look, does he have the most beautiful deep ball in the world? He's got a strong arm, by the way. I don't know, right? Is he the most accurate passer in the world? I don't know. But give me a guy who we know can make plays on the field, who can make things happen when they break down, who can understand what to do, who's kind of been there already and done that. I love DJ Mack to death. But when he got in that game against Memphis, he'd only played basically one game against ECU. We hadn't really seen much of him. Timmy McLean's played a full season of college football. We've seen him play. He has a little bit better of an understanding of what he's getting into. So I feel good about the fact that everyone we talk to says this guy's a gamer and can make plays. And if you can make plays in the field, JRP said this in his presser early in the year that he's the point guard, right? And he's just distributing the ball. If Timmy McLean can be our point guard and make plays and get the ball in the hands of the guys to make the other plays, then I don't see why this wouldn't be a success.
He can't do that alone, though, and he can't have the sort of mistakes and drop passes that plagued the team a week ago. He needs everybody else helping him as well. At UCF, what nickname? He's given us 4 here. Best suits Timmy McLean. Timmy McGaines, Tim Shady, T-Flex, or Yippee-Ki-Yay McLean. Seems too long. Seems too long for a nickname.
I'm going to go Timmy McGaines right now. I like Tim Shady, but there's a bit of a negative connotation there. So give me
I don't
Timmy
think we
McGaines.
should call him Shady. I don't think we should call him Shady.
Give me Timmy McGaines.
At P_Gilly, is it possible the coaches are intentionally using the Harvey trick play? Intentionally. So the defenses cannot be as aggressive against them. Maybe force the secondaries to respect the possibility. Open up. Gus loves this play. By the way, do you like Gus in the post-game comments when I asked about that? It worked every other time, but you ask about it now. I'm paraphrasing there.
You did say it was a fair.
But the one time it failed, it's a fair question. But you asked about it the one time it failed. It seemed like it failed more than one time.
Yeah, it was a fair question. He said, I don't mind the RJ Harvey play, right? I just need him to throw the ball. Alec Collar was wide open, and for whatever reason, I don't know if he didn't have the grip on it. I don't know if he wasn't comfortable with with what he saw. But Alec Collar was wide open, which, by the way, would have got me my Prize Picks win. Alec Collar wide open, and we don't throw it. So that play's never going to work if we don't actually ever show that we're going to throw the football. So, and I didn't understand going back to it a second time. We went to it the first time, it didn't work, and that's one of those where I feel like you try it once, you get the defense off their heels. All right, cool, whatever. To go back to it just seemed a little bit interesting, but I'm fine with it. I just need RJ to actually throw that ball.
Kansas State studying at this very moment. Brian W. Peterson. Why don't we see more of Bowman, McDonald, or Mark Anthony Richardson in the Boise game? It's interesting, right? We saw Bowman for one play and then didn't see him again. It is certainly curious.
It's so funny. I asked this on Around the Kingdom this week, Trace. I know you weren't there, but I asked Eric and Mike. Of the 3 guys that we talked a lot about, who are you most surprised isn't getting playing time? Corey Gamage, DeCorian Patterson, DeMarcus Bowman. That just goes to show you how much we all are idiots, because we talked about those 3 all off season. That was going to make the difference, and why UCF was going places. And DeCorian Patterson, by my count, didn't play a snap at Boise. So I don't know. We're not in the practice field. Like you said, we get 10 minutes of boombox playing and watching Caden Kittler stretch. So I don't know what else is happening outside of that. But it is interesting that we're not seeing more of the running, particularly when RJ Harvey was hurt. Now, I will say this. Johnny Richardson came in on his feet, by the way, and he made some really late runs that helped set up that Colton Boomer field goal. We don't get that field goal if it's not for the runs that Johnny Richardson had for us there. So, but I don't know why we're not seeing some other guys at times. I've never quite understood the rotation on that.
I will say this: some of these guys, their ability to successfully block also earns them.
That's also fair.
And when they struggle with that, when we're not seeing them in practice, that's not translating into playing time.
And one more thing I want on record while we're still here talking about it, lest we not forget that we are not here without Nakai Martinez breaking up that 2-point conversion play.
Very true.
That's going to be one of those plays that's
it'll get lost.
Lost in history. But
it's been lost all week, right?
Yeah, we're not here if Nakai Martinez doesn't tip that ball. So good job, Nakai.
At Love Not War 311, do you have confidence if for any reason Dylan Risk is called upon? I don't know how much confidence you can have, right? He's a true freshman. How much confidence can you have? You don't know.
Well, I mean, I want to say yes. He went to my high school, so I want to say yes for my alma mater there. Look, here's the problem. Coaches raved about him, right? You hear Gus talk about, Dylan Risk is right there, and we're comfortable. He's a guy. But then we also heard Coach talk about a lot of things. So, he's a true freshman. He hasn't had a lot of experience. So I don't know that I'm going to be like super like, this is the guy, this is the future. But again, we've seen true freshmen come in. We just saw Dylan Gabriel do it, a handful of years ago, come in and play well. We saw McKenzie kind of learn on the fly. I'm not trying to compare Dylan Riss to either of those two players, but there is an avenue by which maybe he becomes a serviceable quarterback if we need that.
Dylan Gabriel, what was that Jeff Allen called him?
Sock peddler.
Sock peddler.
I didn't know how do you spell peddler, by the way? I didn't know how to spell it.
Peddler.
Okay, that's what I did.
Yeah. At Deportes Man 80, darn, UCF Mike's not here. Got a question about golf. He's our golf guy.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the contract extension for Emily Marin with UCF Women's Golf? Deserved. She has earned
I agree.
her extension. At Hardesty,
they had a pretty cool Sprinter van, by the way, the other day on social media. They were doing some interviews in the rain. I don't know if that's custom. I don't know where we got that from.
I
That's
saw
a pretty cool
it
van.
out in the parking lot.
Is that right?
That van, yeah.
How do we get access to that, Trace? Can we get a Suns broadcast from there? Can you interview the equipment guy who put the van together?
Oh, I love it. Those poor guys left after the game Saturday, got back in Tuesday. That is one long week of driving.
Labor of love, my friend.
Yeah. At Hardosy, a question I'm not in any way ready for. Timmy plays lights out. Does JRP take QB2 role? No, we're not. I'm not getting into a quarterback controversy.
Play the hot hand.
It hasn't played anything yet. We'll go to his second question. Given the secretive nature of the coaching staff, do we trust Gus when he says the injury isn't season ending? He says a few weeks, which is vague. By the way, Andy, XOS Andy, went back and re-listened to Gus's comment. You almost hear Gus say lateral in that response, maybe LCL, which I then looked up. Andy and I exchanged messages this afternoon. That can be 3 to 6 weeks. So put that on the far end of that, and JRP, how he heals. They can't rush this one back because he certainly came back not 100% with a hammy, right? And he was out there. They can't risk that with a knee.
I am not a doctor. I have not been involved in any conversations with JRP. I had somebody tell me that the initial timeline of like maybe he's back in a couple of weeks is pretty aggressive and maybe not realistic. So I'm going to assume it's going to be a tad longer than a few. So we went from a tad to a few.
That's quite a brace he had on in that video.
Ooh,
you
it was.
Showed him in the golf cart. Andy at UCF XOS. With the current injury situation, what do you consider from the Villanova game a success? How about no more injuries and a 3-0 start? And guys getting playing time and Timmy looking good and confident going on the road to Kansas State.
Yeah, honestly, I'd love another sort of repeat of what we saw with Kent State, right? Get a bunch of guys in the game, get a bunch of guys some live reps, obviously score and win handily, no injuries. I'd love a little bit of a blueprint replication of what we did against Kent State. I'm not saying 56-6 needs to be the score. If we win 31-10, great. But I think if you can do some of those things, I think that's what'll be important.
And we heard earlier the talk, maybe they'll go vanilla once they've established some things. And finally, Michael, emptiness 4. What's the final score between Alabama and the Cows this weekend? He's got 77-3. That is not nearly enough. Put up 100. It won't happen. But
how did the Cows score 3? How do they hit 3?
Alabama's got to be mad, right? Losing.
I mean, your best chance is maybe 2, and the quarterback like runs out of the end zone or a high snap over the punter. I mean, I think 3 is generous, Michael.
There's no score enough. Big home game there. Hey, the upper deck's opening up at the Buck Stadium for this one. How many Alabama fans in attendance for that game? A lot of Alabama fans.
80-20, Bama. 20 seems aggressive too. By the way,
you got to play and lose to the best to be not the best.
I've heard that somewhere. Yeah.
Adam, good to see you. Good to be back
well
on this one. I want to thank DJ Mack for stopping by. Matt Murschel, and of course, join us again. For coverage during the game. I'll be up in the press box. No doubt you'll be piping in on social media. Are you at this game? I can't remember now what your schedule is.
It's a hard maybe right now.
Hard maybe. Gotcha. Suns Pod next week. Around the Kingdom. Suns Live. We got a busy YouTube channel as well. Lots going on and great articles. Dolly out there, Brian W. Peterson, Miles, all kinds of good stuff.
Miles is making some money. He's 10-5 on the year. He's actually doing pretty good. He told me he was an expert, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. The kid's doing a good job. You should check out sunsucf.com. Miles has some interesting picks on there, and I agree. Brian's fantastic, and Dolly just has a lot of really unique ideas, really a lot of unique stories to tell.
What was his line this week? Timmy was lost in the hype. Is that the line?
That was the line. Yeah, Timmy lost in the hype.
UCF.com for that. Yeah. Miles, he got knocked a little on the message board for going 2-3 last week, and somebody else said he's 10-5 against the spread. Just calm down, leave him alone.
Yeah.
He's no UCF Mike though. Mike's studying. By the way, he misses this show on Thursdays because he's studying. He's studying his Big 12 games.
We weren't supposed to tell people that, Trace. That was supposed to be the secret of the Suns, is that Mike's in the lab right now breaking down game film like he's Juan Jaworski. Wow, back to the shades.
Back to the shades. All right. For Adam, I'm Trace. This has been Sons of UCF Live. Go Knights!
Charge on. I have a special surprise, Trace.
Hi, this is Tim McLean. I'm a quarterback at UCF, and thanks for watching Sons of UCF.
It is Timmy time. Go Timmy.